Hi, everybody. It's Andre from the Eaglesoft Field Guide, and I am here with a new friend, Eileen from Victor Dental Care in New York. Hey there, how are you?
Hey, Andre, how are you? I'm
Good, good.
great.
That's funny. I'm so glad to finally catch up with you. I always like meeting new members in the Field Guide, so this is great. And turns out we actually have a connection. You have a Philly connection to my Philly connection. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah,
See, the world is small. So,
it is.
and what we're going to talk about today, which is a fantastic subject, I don't think I've ever done a video on this, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about, is the Eaglesoft Money Finder.
Mhm. The Money Finder. It
And
has a funny name.
it's surprising that so many people don't even know it exists.
Ah,
So
well, you do have to go looking for it. It's not right there in a drop down.
exactly. So let's start for how to find it. So we're going to go to activities
Mm-hmm.
and down to practice management. And then there it is hiding under Money Finder. And Money Finder, from its inception, the way it was originally created is literally to find money that's hidden in the practice. And there's a couple tools to do that, but Money Finder is the way to get it out. If you just want to see what it is, the one above it, revenue opportunities, is a great way. I tell doctors this is a great thing that if you ever want to kind of scare yourself into realizing there's untapped potential in the practice, if you go to revenue opportunities, this is a great way to, especially anybody who wants to get your AR report without having to run actually a report. The first thing that shows up is your accounts receivable. All right. Then if you look at overdue recalls, if I bring in 52 people, I have 52 people in my practice who are overdue for recalls. If I can bring in 25% of those people at $120 each, I can make another $1,500. So the revenue opportunity is just a great quick glance, and this is a great tool for doctors to look at. Don't drive yourself crazy with it. But revenue opportunities is a great way to sort of get a broad view. And then what we're going to talk about today is Money Finder to actually go find who those patients are who connect back to those dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Money Finder. What's your favorite tool and thing to use Money Finder for?
One of the things that I use Money Finder for is in our office, we have a separate code for CIRAC versus 2740.
Perfect.
We have to quantify those CIRACs on a monthly basis relative to the doctor's usage and like if there's fees associated with it. So I like to use Money Finder to find a particular code. Having said that, you can use Money Finder for any code in a given month. I've used it for perio services as well to try to break down like what our perio percentage is in a given month, like how much perio our hygienists are producing in a given month. And
That's
you
awesome.
can use it that way.
Yeah.
One of my very favorite ways, which is a little different, I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's my new patient retention.
That's what I use it for.
Do you?
I do.
So I go in there and I'll like put in my comp code 150
Yep.
and I'll put it in for a date range that happened 9 months ago. So basically I'm searching for those patients who came into the practice 9 months ago and are not in hygiene. Why aren't they in hygiene? And that's my first go-to on my recall. I give that to my recall coordinator, and that's her job to search out why that new patient who came in 9 months ago is not in recall.
Yeah,
That's my very favorite.
I think, and people ask me all the time, how can I track new patients?
Mhm.
And this is, you're exactly the same place I would be. I look at people using comp exams, and you made a good point. I'll show you something. I actually use a couple of codes for my comp exams, and I have a new patient comp exam and I have a re-entering comp exam.
Ah,
So I can split that even better because, there are some, college kids, they come back into the practice. It's been 5 years and we want to charge them again for a comp exam, but
exactly.
I don't want to muddy that water. So I'm looking at my new patients as opposed to my comp patients. And, fantastic that you have these, like your share codes. It's a fantastic way to split out the people. And just like Eileen's saying, we can go up here to say those patients do not have a scheduled restorative appointment and they do not have a scheduled preventive appointment. Now, this isn't a real database, so I'm not going to get real numbers out of this, but I'm going to leave this as a just an open date. If I run that report, it asks me, who do I want to, I mean, do I want to print a report? You know, what do I want to do? But let's just do a print preview. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people. But these are all the people who I saw as a comp exam, but as of today, they don't have a scheduled appointment. So that's a 23-person list that somebody should be on top of, knocking these people on the top of their head to get them back into the practice.
That's right. That's my favorite report right there.
Yep. And so everybody knows, you know, let's talk about being paperless. So what I would do is I would say, okay, show me that report, but instead of printing it to paper, what I do is I say, send that information to InContact. And the tool in Contact is something that most people don't use. You see, it shows me my list name. Now, instead of having this paper list where I'm writing in the margins, now I have a digital list, and that's what that telephone's for. And here is that list in a digital format. So now I can make a call to this person, make a note about that person, and I can say that I left a message for them or whatever. So I have a digital list based on the criteria that we just talked about in creating a money finder. So it's a fantastic tool, not only for just generating a list, but also putting it in a format so that you can work a list. I do the same thing for collections, for everything. You know, it's a great tool to be able to do that. Let me delete all these out of here and let's get back to our money finder. What else? What other things do you like using it for?
You know, sometimes I use it just for cleanup. You know, we're a practice that is 33 years old, so there's a lot of records in our database. We actually have been with digital imaging for a very long time. We were early adopters of it, I think 2001. We used to be with that other software.
The other one. Are there other ones? I didn't know there were any.
That other one. And we transitioned to Eaglesoft in 2009, and it's been just so much more user-friendly and intuitive. But a lot of those records came over, and then there was a lot of like database cleanup that had to happen. That was some time ago. But now, for instance, there are patients like the hygiene coordinator, she can run an overdue recall report, and she's got date ranges that she's running it for. There are some patients that are kind of hiding in the practice that are outside that range now. And they've really kind of like it's like old news, and they're really, for all intents purposes, not really patients of the practice anymore, because you can use it to find like the last visit date. Right. And if you go in there every now and then, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months, it seems like longer for me these days because I'm carrying a lot of roles. And you'd be surprised at what pops up. And you know, these people are inactive. Yeah. I do know some of those inactives can become activated inadvertently. For instance, if they are a policy holder for someone who is still in the practice, and someone has to go in and look at the policy holder's demographic information for insurance or whatever the situation is, Eaglesoft automatically toggles them alive in recall again. Right. So it's kind of good to go looking for those people to keep them inactive, to keep your active patient base accurate.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, this, especially, you know, when we go back to the beginning of March or mid-March, and people started, you know, finding time now to do some cleanup, this is a fantastic tool to go in and say, you know, if this, then that, if this, then that. A lot of people were asking, how can I figure out if they're patients who haven't been here for a while, so inactive, are they still connected to insurance? Well, we can do, a patient has a status of has insurance, and then we could put a date range, just like you're saying, as last visit was 2018. And we can go through and say, okay, this is a great set of people who haven't been here forever, and let's move them out. I like the fact that, you know, I always use this example, you know, doctors who are just getting into implant placement, or they're getting into fixed bridge work, you know, dentures that are now going to be held in. So you could do something like, and this sounds like it's crazy, but it's a great idea. Let's look at every patient who is between, and I'm going to use a low number, like 50 and 70, all right, who at one time, and we could put a date range way back, had a completed D5120. So they had a lower denture made 5 years ago or more. but they're still a young, they're still young and chipper. But
Mhm.
this is a great opportunity to send some marketing campaign that says, hey, have you ever thought about having a denture that doesn't come out? And
Mhm.
this is a great opportunity to say, if this, then that. So they fall into a date range, they are in a certain date, and then you can even say people who have insurance, because somebody
Right.
who has full denture probably hasn't had any dental treatment done, we know, for a really long time. So this is a good way to be able to go through and pull people out who might have certain things, or imagine if they had a planned service. Well, let's go back to your 2740. Whoops, wrong code. D2740. All right. And they had it planned, but it's not completed, and they still have benefits left. I mean, we're now in November, but what we always
Right.
did before was to come up with these ideas of how many people still have remaining benefits. So this is a fantastic tool to be able to dig into that.
I like that tool too. And when you go to the next screen, you can sort them too. You
Mhm.
can sort them by various factors, I think, right there in
Yep.
the bottom area. Like, do they have a hygiene appointment coming up? Is it something we can talk about at that appointment? But when you actually generate the appointment too, what I like is there's a sort feature on the report.
Mhm.
And now you can pull things over from that sort feature for like who has the most benefits left, for example.
Yep.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep. So here's your sort up at the top,
Uh-huh.
and we can actually find categories here like remaining benefits, or
Hmm.
that's deductible. Secondary, primary remaining benefits. We can drop that over there, and that would be the way that we sort that list.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that feature in the reporting too.
And there's some people who have $10,000 worth of benefits left in
Yeah.
in my made up system over here. Only in a made up system would they have that, right?
That's right.
I've only run into one person in my lifetime that's had those kind of benefits, and he works for Philadelphia Coca-Cola Bottling Company. I never will
Oh,
forget that. Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Wow.
So this is also a great tool now. I mean, and we are going through hygiene deserts. We're going through times where people have been really pulling back. This is a great tool, and I'm a huge proponent of filling the book, but finding out strategic ways to getting patients back in. And it's never about you're due for a recall. I mean, I can tell you, if I could show you, I can't reach it from here, but on my pegboard, I have a card from my dentist that I'm due back, my optometrist that I'm due back for a checkup. I know it. I'm not going to make any effort to come back. But if they said something like, hey, you realize that you can get an extra pair of sunglasses this year, then maybe it would get me to come in. So, I like doing things like showing me patients with insurance who are between 7 years old and 14 years old who lack a completed D1351. So they haven't had sealants. And here's a great tool to say, hey, mom, the kids are home. I understand. And, school's kind of iffy right now. But, they're going to be eating some, pizza, bagels, and all kinds of weird stuff while they're sitting at home. Maybe we should bring them in and get sealants done. Depending on the office, if you believe in sealants, but maybe we should get the kids in. It should take about a half hour for both kids, and insurance should cover this 100%.
Hmm. Hmm.
Fantastic tool to backfill your hygiene schedule. At the same time, maybe we can get mom in for her normal checkup or talk to her about some outstanding care that needs to be done. So
Awesome. I like that one.
yeah. So anything you guys can think of. And just so you know, Patterson actually gave you some kind of some tools up here. So if you want some quick ideas, there are some that are up here, and there's a sealant list up here. They don't, the one from Patterson does not take into consideration insurance. I like taking the insurance situation in there because, again, for most of those patients, it's free. And the other thing is they put to 18, which most insurances don't cover to 18. So,
Mm-hmm.
you want to tweak these, but it's a great tool to be able to look up here and see, is there something that's, that the patients are overdue for, that you might be able to just do a quick list to pull up and find out what's going on.
There's a lot to find there.
Yeah. And here's something too, statistics. You did it for your perio patients. I like using Money Finder for things like, show me all the people who came in for exams. So I'm going to say, has a completed D0120, and I'll put a date range, or they had a completed D0150, or a completed D0180 if you use that code. All right. So let's do that, and let's run a number of those patients who've come in a particular period of time. Of course, I'm not going to get a good report back, but let's say it's 100 people who came in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say also who had, for the same period of time, had a prophy. All right. And I get a number, and that's going to be 86 people came in. So of my 100 people, 86 of them had prophy. And then I'm going to do the same number and say D1120. And out of that, I had 10 kids. So I know that out of that, 86% of my patients are prophy patients. Mm-hmm. Exactly. 10% are kids. And then the rest would be perio patients. So it's a great way to find statistics of your practice without having to do a lot of other kinds of reporting. We can just do it based on the numbers. So it's a fantastic tool, and a lot of people don't even know it exists.
Well, you do find your favorites and stick with them a little bit. But now I think I'm going to sort of like dig around a little bit and find some more.
Yeah. And the best thing is, you're going to run a report, and then you're going to see that there's some things that are weird about it. And then just go back and tweak some of the things, tweak the date range or providers, the insurance status, and those kinds of things. Money Finder, a lot of people have seen the patient master report. Mm-hmm. And the patient master report just doesn't give you the same kinds of tools with the coding. So you can kind of do both.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know if you know this one. And this is something that are a lot of offices who are utilizing outside specialty care. They send their patients to a periodontist or an orthodontist. One of the tools I always used is all of my patients have, you see where it says R. Smith?
Yes.
So I utilize this tool to show all the patients who I've referred out. So this is a referral to Dr. Smith.
Okay.
So now what I can do is go back to Money Finder, Activities, Practice Management, and Money Finder. And I can say, show me all those people who are referred to Dr. Smith.
Ah.
And I hit cancel. But I used to do that when, long before any of the other tools existed in Eaglesoft. I did that for all of my ortho patients. So I would have an O and then the doctor's name and then a P for my periodontist. And, so I could actually see all of my ortho patients with Dr. Jones and all of my ortho patients with Dr. Williams. And then all my, and this is a great way, at Christmas, we can figure out who's going to give us the best baskets, by seeing how many patients we've referred to those specialists. So it's a great way to be able to run that list and see, there's my list of referrals to Dr. Smith.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't mean they actually went there, but I just know that they were referred. And there are tools in Eaglesoft that we can show referrals, but this is a great tool where we can actually do this, but then maybe even tie it down to a code and say, show me all these, this I referred out and that we referred out, and see those patients where they are in treatment.
That would be a good one for endo referrals.
Exactly.
And then you can track your endo referrals and see if you've gotten correspondence back or if they've followed through with subsequent treatment.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And it's such a quick, easy tool because now we could even, again, throw those into In Contact and make some phone calls. Hey, have you ever followed up with Dr. Jones about the root canal? So it's a really fun, and I say fun, this is my idea of fun, but this is one of those things where if you didn't know it existed, you're going to have a whole day's worth of fun to go in here and try to find some stuff.
Yeah.
I like this. If an office actually does, either you refer the services or or if you in-house do root canals. So I like doing, show me everybody who had a D3330. So they had a molar root canal and they lack a completed crown. 2740. Or, and you could do or if you have multiple crown types. But this is a great tool to say, show me all those people who had a root canal, but never had a crown, which means they probably need it. And let's make a phone call or create a campaign that we can send out through, Revenue Well or whatever to be able to capture those patients and say, hey, teeth become subject, brittle and subject to fracture after having root canal. Make sure you follow up with us on that. So always great tools that you can use for these kinds of things.
I like it.
You like it? Cool.
I do.
And again, Money Finder, untapped, but also potential for the practice to find some money or just reconnect to patients who you haven't connected with before in a different way, a deeper way, because now instead of just that Garfield card, reminding them they need a checkup, we're going deeper and saying, this is specifically what we need to talk to you about.
It's a good tool.
Awesome tool. What are the other things that you guys use in the practice do you think you should, that everybody else should be using?
Well, I love paperless offices, but we do use a tracker.
Okay.
Just because we find it incredibly valuable when patient treatment is diagnosed. It is paper, and yet we just can't seem to find a way to get rid of it because it's so quick, it's so easy.
Is it blue?
No, it's white with lines.
Okay. Yeah, everybody says the blue form or something like that. Yeah, and I get it, as a recovering consultant, I mean, for years we used some sort of form like that. What I've found is that the practices that I work with now are utilizing the odontograph, the chart, so much that information is visual, and we don't need the trackers as much, using the phasing, those kinds of things, because now, especially with some of the advanced charting that we're doing, we can see it by color, we can see it by phase, and it stands out so much more that I've gotten almost everybody weaned off of those. But it's again, I stood behind it for years because it was a great tool to be able to make sure these doctors were able to see the stuff. But again, it's one of those hard things to get rid of. It's like Post-its. It's so difficult to get rid of those little remnants of a paper office.
And reminders. I think personally, what I find valuable about the tracker, though, is they kind of tell a story sometimes. Like when, a patient schedules and then they cancel, and they schedule and then they cancel. And then, so all you do is look at that tracker and you immediately know there's a story here and there's like roadblocks. And we haven't uncovered the roadblocks. What are the roadblocks? And also just those little snippets of like financial conversations you have that aren't really appropriate, like chart-worthy material that can be passed from one administrator to the next, that helps you understand immediately at walkout, for instance, where a patient is without doing a lot of digging.
Yep.
So that's why I think it's hard for me to get away from them, because it's a snapshot right there in front of me. That's the part I can't figure out.
And a lot of that is, I see offices who struggle on that last leap out of paper. And a lot of it is, again, it can't be visual. For me, the practice I worked in, my charge for my doctor was, if you can see it on paper, you have to be able to see it in the computer. Otherwise, we can't make the leap. And in the same way, what we did with IntelliCare is what we did with the visual chart. So the same things that you're talking about, I can see visually in my operatory screen. I can see if we've had a financial conversation. I can see if there's outstanding treatment. I can see if the patient hasn't gone to referral services, so that, that roadblock has kind of been lifted. I'll give you a quick glance at what I'm talking about. So right there, I can quickly see what's going on. And somebody asked me,
what's that little thing over there?
So those are IntelliCares. So I can tell just from this screen, this patient is overdue for bite wings. They have not had their full series in more than 60 months, so 5 years. They have MetLife. They're overdue for their cleaning. They haven't filled out their health history. They have a treatment plan over $1,000 that we need to have a conversation about. They haven't filled out their COVID information. And they have a Gmail account, so I need to ask them about doing a Google review. So really quickly, I don't need to do a whole lot to be able to see these things. This guy has a treatment plan a referred service that is incomplete. They have appointment problems. This is yellow V. It says VIP. They're on a 3-month recall, and they have a hearing impairment. All right. There's a private memo I should read. They have Blue Shield.
Okay.
So again, I can see these things just like that. There's absolutely no reason for me to dig into charting because I can see it, my doctors can see it. And, even if when it comes down to paperwork, it's right there.
I see.
So, and again, my charge for offices is, what is stopping you from getting rid of that piece of paper? And it's, well, because I need to be able to quickly see this information to tell the story. And I'm a big
Right.
storyteller. So how can I see this? It's like, let's figure out a way to transfer that to paper, into the computer, and then we can eliminate certain sections of it until there's no more.
Right.
But
I
I
like
still believe it's a great tool.
it.
Yep.
I like it.
Yep. But just like, I'd say all the time, my electric screwdriver is sitting outside of my office, and I had to plug it in because I went to use it and the battery was dead.
It's dead.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I had to go back to the traditional handheld screwdriver, but that doesn't mean that I should just throw it out and go back to, manual. I just have to make sure I keep it charged. I have to put a visual reminder that thing needs to be charged on a regular basis. So,
Sure.
yeah, but that's fantastic. I think that's a great tool.
That
I,
isn't
I'm
it.
I'm glad you brought up Money Finder because I looked and I was surprised that I hadn't done a conversation about Money Finder in the past, and I think that's one of the fantastic tools that's out there.
It's one of those hidden kind of tools, I think.
Yeah.
But once you find it, it's there.
It's there, and uh, just so everybody knows, when the doctor finds out it's there, they're going to tell you better go use Money Finder because it is just that. It's a fantastic tool to find some money in the practice. So
Yes, it is.
well, you be safe out there, and thank you for spending some time with me, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was nice chatting with you.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Andre.